Building a granny flat without building consent and resource consent. Well, I've been asked a lot lately about the new building consent exemption rules about granny flats under 60 square meters in New Zealand. So I thought I'd make a video and talk about the information that are available now. And also at the end of this video, I'll give you my honest opinion about this rule. In June 2024, government announced that they want to make granny flats building and resource consent free by mid 2025. What is a granny flat? So, a granny flat or minor dwelling is a self-contained residential unit that is ancillary to the principal residential unit and is held in common ownership with the principal residential unit on the same site. Up until now, government has been seeking feedback from people. The submissions are now closed and the final decisions are going to be made later this year, and the new rules will be in place hopefully by mid 2025. Meanwhile, there is a guideline, or as they call it, a discussion document available on the government website that has some outlines in it. Please note this is a guide only at this stage and it cannot be used as a legal advice. So I've made all the conditions bullet pointed here for myself so I can read it for you, and I'm not giving you wrong information. First of all, the government is proposing that an engineer's report would not be required. Requiring such a report could introduce engineering services where they otherwise may not be required, imposing an additional cost to the consumer. Instead, they're proposing that building work would need to be completed or supervised by suitably competent regulated professionals such as licensed building practitioners and authorized plumbers. So these are the list of conditions that must be met to build a small standalone dwelling without a building consent. Number one, building code. The building must be designed and built to comply with the building code. Number two, new building only. The exemption only applies to a new building, so you cannot modify or alter an existing building to become a granny flat on your property. Number three, standalone. Must be a single dwelling house detached from any other dwelling. Number four, up to and including 60 square meters. This is measured in accordance with the existing guidance, which says net floor area in a building is measured to the inside of the enclosing walls or column. So I'm going to put in a bracket here that this might be confusing for some people. I personally sell cabin plans for buildings under 30 square meters, which are exempted from building consent on TradeMe. And I've been accused a lot of breaking the rules because people say, oh, these buildings are more than 30 square meters. And I have to explain that every time that the 30 square meter rule applies to the internal area of the building, not to the outside of the structure. Next one. Height. The building is not more than 1 story. The floor level is maximum 1 meter from the supporting ground, and the total height from floor level to top of the roof is 4 meter maximum. So this is similar to 30 square meter rule with the exemption of an extra half a meter for the building height itself. Height to boundaries. There are two options here. Option A, no building work in connection with a building that is closer than the measure of its own height to any building or legal boundary. Option B, there must be a 2-meter distance from external walls to any other building or boundary. Well, I think this one makes a lot more sense because if you want to set the building back from the boundary, same amount of the height of the building from the ground, let's say the height, the highest point of the roof is 4.5 meters from the ground. It means that you have to come inside 4.5 meters from the boundary and be away 4.5 meters from any other building on the land. And unless you have a really good sized section, there aren't many sections that meet this requirement. Next one is protection from fire. Must have interconnected smoke alarm throughout the building. It can only have electric or gas heaters, so you cannot have a wood burner, for example. It is designed and built using lightweight building products for the walls and roof. So you cannot have a building that is made of concrete panels or stone, for example. The building must be located in a wind zone no greater than high wind zone. I think this one is for safety reasons. So if a fire happens, for example, the wind doesn't spread it to other existing buildings around it. Plumbing work. All plumbing and drain laying must be done by an appropriately licensed person. Plumbing and drainage system must connect to network utility operator services where available. This includes mains water, sewer, and stormwater. Where network utility operator services are not available, the system would require a building consent just for the system. So for example, if you're on a septic tank or if you have a holding water tank for stormwater and you're adding a granite flat to your property, it means that extra load, so you might need to modify the existing system, or it might not be able to cope at all and you might to put a new septic tank or stormwater tank, etc. And you have to get a building consent for those things. Plumbing and drainage should be simple. For example, wastewater and stormwater by gravity. So it cannot be pumped wastewater or stormwater. Portable water systems only. So you can't have non-portable water. And controlled heat source water heaters only. So you can have approved hot water cylinders or gas californ for your hot water. Impervious line shower enclosures only. So you cannot have tiled over membrane wet areas or showers. Any design must be done or supervised by an LBP working within their scope of competency. All restricted building work must be carried out by licensed building practitioners. This means that if you want to build a granny flat under owner builder exemptions, you have to apply for a building consent. All the design and building work must be signed off by the designer and builder. I guess this one is for the council to put liability on the tradespeople. Notification of works to councils. Owners must notify the council of planned work by providing indicative plans and requesting information about the features of the land relevant to the work, similar to a PIM. This will incur an administration fee. So this one is an interesting one because they're saying that you can't just go and willy-nilly start building a granny flat without letting the council know. You have to let them know, they have to process it, and there will be a fee. They haven't said how much that fee will be or how long that will take. Owners must notify councils once work is complete. So I assume this one is for them to give something like a code of compliance for the building and also start charging rates for the additional dwelling. And then a whole lot of other conditions for the resource consent part of it, which is things like setback from the boundaries, the number of minor dwellings that you're allowed to have, maximum coverage, etc. And they're all in this guideline. I'm not going to go into the detail of it because this is gonna just make the video too long. Good or bad? So here is my honest opinion. If you were to get a building consent for a 60 square meter simple granny flat, you're looking at the building consent and inspection fees of about 6 to 7 grand. And I'm not talking about resource consent here. Yes, resource consent takes a lot of time, it costs a lot of money, and it is ridiculous for a lot of minor dwelling that are really simple and cost effective. I'm only talking about the building consent part of it. I think because this is a new rule, this is going to be a new rule, there are going to be some complexities around other things. Like banks, for example, they might have some stricter rules for borrowing you a loan for a building that is going to be built without a building consent. So if you don't have money and you have to borrow money, you have to consider that. These are my assumptions. Insurance company might increase their premium because this building being built without a building consent. Then the licensed building practitioners probably increase their rates because they have to pay more for their liability insurance. And then the valuation. So if one day in future you want to sell your property, the valuation of a building that's been built without a building consent is going to be less than a building that's been built with a building consent and been inspected by the council and signed off by the council. You have to have all the documents that if you were going to apply for a building consent, you have to have all the plans, the specification, the report. And if you are on the septic tank and stormwater tank, you have to apply for those anyway, and those will take the 20 working days, and they'll incur a fee, and they have to be inspected by the council. So for a saving of $6,000 to $7,000 for something that will cost you at least $170,000 just for the building, not the other relevant thing. I think if I were to build a minor dwelling on my own property, I would apply for a building consent. Don't get me wrong, I don't enjoy dealing with city councils, but I think it's a safe thing to do, and it will just get rid of a lot of this that is not needed. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is just a discussion at this moment. We don't know about the exact limitations that the government is going to put in place when they come into effect, and I will update you when those information are released.